Rise up!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, USA Today's NFL Wire site that covers, of course, your Arizona Cardinals. And here I am with episode 719. It's our Cardinals versus 49ers preview picks and predictions and prop bets show. Only it is a solo show, as I was unable to things got really busy between me and Seth this week, between his family and football and me and other stuff going on. So you'll have to just listen to me yap. And I wasn't able to get Kyle Madsen or Kyle Posey or any other 49ers contributor to get on the show this week. And that's all right. The Cardinals are at home this weekend against the San Francisco 49ers. 2:05 kickoff from State Farm Stadium, Arizona time, 4:05 Eastern. It marks the return of Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall for the 49ers, and the Cardinals are a banged-up bunch. We'll talk about more of that, but we'll start with the 49ers, who have begun, it seems to begun to fade a little bit. They are 6-4, but have alternated wins and losses since they played the Cardinals when they beat the Cardinals 16-15 in Week 3 on a last-second field goal with Mac Jones. Since then, they haven't won 2 games in a row. So they started out the season 3-0 with the win over the Cardinals. Then they lost to Jacksonville in Week 4. Brock Purdy came back for that game, didn't play, had a setback, and he's been out ever since. They beat the Rams in overtime in Week 5, then lost to the Buccaneers 30-19, beat the Falcons 20-10. Lost to the Houston Texans 26-15, beat the Giants 34-24 in Week 9, and then were blown out by the Rams last week, 42-26. And they are now a game and a half out of first place in the division, when they were pretty much for the first half of the season right at the top of the division, and that they've been helped because of a fantastic record in the division. They are 3-1. They have beaten. They will not lose any head-to-head tiebreakers to anyone, because they have beaten every NFC West team at least once. Now, they finished their season against the Rams already, splitting those 2 games. But here's the other part of that, is that if the 49ers can stick around, and they're 6-2 in the conference. Seattle's 4-2 in the conference, and the Rams are 2-2 in the conference, which means they got a whole bunch of conference games left. The Rams have been feasting on the AFC so far this season, and they are the only team with 4 division games so far. Seattle has 3. The Rams have only played 2 games in the NFC West, and the Cardinals are 0-3. This will be their 4th one. And San Francisco will only have 1 game left, and that will come later on in the year against the Seattle Seahawks. But what's changed with them? Well, the last time the Cardinals saw the 49ers, Mac Jones had been pretty solid, but what they have done is turned the ball over consistently and have not been getting takeaways. So they turned the ball over once against the Cardinals. They turned the ball over 4 times against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Didn't turn the ball over against the Rams in that overtime win. Turned the ball over twice against Tampa, once against Atlanta, Houston, and the Giants, and then last week 2 turnovers against the Rams. And since the Cardinals game, and they've only forced 4 turnovers, 2 against the Rams in that overtime game, 1 against the Falcons, 1 against the Texans. And so their turnover differential right now is -7 since then. Of course, they've been kind of treading water. They've been beating better team, the teams they're better than. They've been losing to teams that are somewhat competitive. They've turned into a pretty mid team, but they've also been doing it with massive amounts of injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Well, their edge presence is gone. They lost Nick Bosa. They lost their first round pick, Michael Williams, who tore his ACL. They lost Fred Warner. So basically their two most important defensive players are done for the season, and they've been playing much of the year without Brock Purdy. Mac Jones has played fine, um, but he's been okay. Honestly, Mac Jones has been solid this year, but like last week against the Rams, he had 319 yards and 3 touchdown passes and 1 interception, but they were blown out. Offensively, they've been all right. If you look at the points totals, um, they since the 16-point output against the Cardinals in the win, they've gone 26, 21, 26, 19, 20, 15, 34, and 26. The defense has been an issue, though. The defense has been an issue because aside from the game against the Falcons, where they held them to only 10 points, since the Cardinals game, except for the Falcons, they have allowed at least 23 points in every contest. And so we're gonna have to see how that goes. And Christian McCaffrey has been everything in their offense. His rushing numbers are not efficient this year. He's averaging 3.5 yards a carry, but he's got 626 rushing yards. And then on top of that, he's got 69 catches for nearly 700 yards. So he's already over 1,300 yards from scrimmage. He scored 8 touchdowns overall. In the passing game it's been basically everything through McCaffrey because they've missed time. They've had George Kittle miss time. They've had Juwan Jennings miss time. They've had Ricky Pearsall miss time. And Pearsall will come back this week. Defensively, in terms of they only have 1 interception this year. 1. They've not been making plays on the ball. Renard Green has been getting his hands on passes. He's got 8 pass-up breakups. And obviously the sack production isn't there. They've only got 12 sacks this season, led by Bryce Huff's 4. But things are different. So this is an interesting game, especially with the small spread. We'll talk predictions later, but you look at what's been going on, and the 49ers have dealt with injury after injury. But here's the thing. The Cardinals have been dealing with injuries too. And the 49ers are healthy this week. But the Cardinals, with all the injuries, have not done well. The 49ers are 6-4. And if you look at their schedule, look at the schedule that they have over their next 4 games. They have the Cardinals, Panthers, Browns, a bye, and the Titans. Their next 4 games are against patently bad teams. This is a team that, as banged up as they are, could be 10-4 going into the final 3 games of the year. They're definitely in the mix for the playoffs. And really, honestly, if the 49ers if the Rams and the Seahawks slip at all because of that conference record and their division record, the 49ers could sneak into a division title, especially Brock Purdy coming back. He adds an element to their offense that Mac Jones does not give them. Mac Jones can move a little bit, but Brock Purdy is willing and able, and the thing that you have to plan for him is, in fact, his mobility. And he will move. Kyle Madsen in his behind enemy lines responses to me said that Purdy should come back and kind of mask some of the 49ers issues in pass protection. You have to account for his mobility. Pearsall's return has been something that has been needed in the vertical passing game. And that's going to be interesting because some of the weaknesses that the 49ers have, the Cardinals don't really offer in strength. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Let's move on. So coming up next on the Res Receiver podcast, it's our Cardinals talk a little bit. Let's move on and let's talk about matchups and how the Cardinals and kind of the keys. What are the Cardinals going to have to do to win? How do we see this game? How do I see this game playing out? That's coming up next on Res Receiver Red. You're back on the Rise of Seaward podcast, Mr. Cardinals talk on the web. I'm here, Jess Root, solo on this show. The time to talk about the Cardinals and the 49ers in terms of matchups. Pass protection hasn't been great for the 49ers thus far. However, for a team that struggles in pass protection, they're facing the Cardinals team that doesn't do a whole lot in terms of rushing the passer. And if you look at now Mac Jones wasn't sacked at all last week, but he's been sacked in parts, and the worst one was against Tampa Bay, was sacked 6 times. He's been sacked 16 times but here's the thing. The Cardinals, they don't offer much in terms of pass rushing, and they're banged up as well. And so, like, what are we going to get? Baron Browning is out. He's in concussion protocol. Now, Josh Sweat, he's been producing. He's got 8 sacks and 12 quarterback hits. Calais Campbell's got 5 sacks, 12 quarterback hits. But Josh Sweat has a knee injury. He took a personal day on Thursday. He has got no game designation, but you're going to want to watch him in that matchup against Trent Williams or their right tackle as well to see how that plays out. But there's no Baron Browning this week, which means we're going to see more Zaven Collins, more Jordan Birch, maybe Xavier Thomas. It could mark the return of B.J. Ojolari, which would be an interesting thing. Of course, the Cardinals are also banged up on the defensive line. Walter Nolan and Darius Robinson are both questionable for the game. They don't have Will Johnson, though Max Melton returns. And so they will have some help in coverage. But also, here's the one to watch. So the Cardinals did a really good job. The Cardinals did a really good job against Christian McCaffrey in week 3. It was arguably McCaffrey's worst game that he's had this year. And we look at, and a lot of that is McCaffrey had the drops. Mac Wilson had a fantastic game. Now he ended up, I guess you look at McCaffrey and you say he had a good game. That's actually not that great. Now he did have the drops, but 52 rushing yards on 17 carries, but 10 catches for 88 yards. He ended up having the they stopped him until they until they needed to stop him, and then they didn't because he had those plays on the final drive. But he ended up with 140 total yards from scrimmages. I'm thinking, oh, they kept him in check. They didn't do that at all. They just kept him out of the end zone. In that game, and they're going to have to do it with Cody Simon as their starting linebacker. Akeem Davis Gaither's not been particularly great. The Seahawks ran all over the Cardinals last week. There's no other way around it. Zach Charbonnet, who had 83 yards on 14 carries. Kenneth Walker had 67 yards on 14 carries. They combined for 150 rushing yards, and then a dude named George Halani had 31 yards and a touchdown as well. So first and foremost, the matchup we're going to have our eyes on is how Christian McCaffrey does against the Cardinals front seven, and namely Cody Simon. If they're going to match up the same way, Mac Wilson was lined up against him, was the guy in coverage most of the time against McCaffrey. So how is that going to look with Cody Simon, the rookie? That's a one to worry about. You're also going to have fun watching Ricky Pearsall against Max Melton and Garrett Williams. As for on the Cardinals side, with Fred Warner being out, big game could be coming for Trey McBride. And here's the other factor that that Trey McBride might get 85 targets, not literally, but with no Marvin Harrison, no Zay Jones, the number one receiving target, well, the number one receiver is now Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson's a nice player, but he is far from dominant. The Cardinals receiving trio is going to be Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, and Xavier Weaver. That is not, and then you're going to have Andre Bocelli as another guy. So expect a lot of two tight end stuff. And with Bam Knight, I don't know. I don't know what the Cardinals are going to do offensively. Now, granted, the 49ers aren't great defensively. They are not. However, what are the Cardinals going to do offensively? Who are they? Like Trey McBride against D Winters. That's going to be kind of critical. How dominant can McBride be? And can the Cardinals keep Jacoby Brissett upright? The 49ers only have 12 sacks on the season, but Jacoby Brissett's been sacked 18 times in 4 games, been hit 45 times, and that kind of has been the story here. You're going to watch the Cardinals' interior rush against. You see Calais Campbell against the 49ers interior offensive line. Diamador Lenore, their number one cornerback for the 49ers, might miss the game, But again, the Cardinals don't have the receivers to really exploit that this week. So you've got a 49ers team that has some issues in pass protection, but they're playing against the Cardinals who don't offer a pass rush. They haven't been a good pass rushing team, but the Cardinals have been awful in pass protection. So, and they don't run the ball particularly well. The 49ers might be missing their top cornerback, but the Cardinals are missing 2 of their top receivers. And so, yeah, this is gonna be such an interesting matchup to see how things go overall. If we look at San Francisco's defense, they are 11th in yards on offense, but 23rd in points. So it is a far more efficient offense than it is productive. They're middle of the ground in points, below average in yards, and they're a middling team in terms of rush defense. But here's the thing: the Cardinals don't offer much in the run game either. So not much you can really hang your hat on there. So kind of the keys. What are the Cardinals going to have to do? They can't turn the ball over. Their offense is not built to be able to withstand turnovers. They got to protect. So somehow they need to get the ball out more quickly with Jacoby Brissett, and somehow I think the name of the game is going to be on offense. If they can keep up offensively, they can sneak this game, because I honestly don't see them being able to do much defensively against the 49ers with Brock Purdy back, with Ricky Pearsall back, with George Kittle in the lineup, with Christian McCaffrey, especially when you're missing Baron Brown, you're missing Will Johnson, you're missing Mac Wilson, you might be missing Walter Nolan and Darius Robinson, and so it's tough. So let's talk preview and predictions. That's coming up next on the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. Time to move on and talk about predictions. That's coming next on Rise Up See Red. We're back on the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. Me talking about the Cardinals and 49ers matchup. Now we move to the predictions. Interestingly enough, the Cardinals are 3-point underdogs. This is a weird game in terms of that the 49ers aren't favored by more, but this is a banged up team that seems like that things feel like for the 49ers, they're almost unraveling, but maybe with the comeback of Pearsall and Purdy, things will amp up offensively. And the Cardinals, you can't trust at all. That said, 89% of the handle on the money line is backing the 49ers, and 86% of the bets on the spread also back the Niners to cover the spread. I believe the 49ers will also win and cover the spread. But here's the interesting part, that they have 60% of the bets are on the under. Now, the Cardinals offensively have been putting up 22 plus points a game since Jacoby Brissett took over. They put up 27, 23, 27, and 22 points in those 4 games. However, the defense, the defense, aside from the game against the Cowboys, so they gave up 31 to the Colts, they gave up 27 to the Packers, and they gave up 44. Although technically, 30 of those points they gave up 44 to the Seahawks, although 14 of those points were scored defensively. So 30 points defensively. So the 49ers, they have Christian McCaffrey, they've got Brock Purdy coming back, they got Ricky Pearsall back. If the Cardinals can simply score, I think they'll be okay. But I think this is going to be a shootout, but one that's not going to be particularly close. I think the 49ers will win. It won't be a one-score game. I'm saying this is going to be a 34-24 49ers win. I think the Cardinals defense isn't stopping anybody. And I think the Cardinals will be able to move the ball. And so there'll be that, but it'll be kind of a hopeless type of situation. So, and that's the interesting. 60% are on the under 48.5. I don't know why that is. The Cardinals have had high scoring games in their last 4, excluding the 27-17 win over the Cowboys. And the Cardinals don't offer much defensively. And so I like the over in this game. I like the 49ers to win, to cover, and I'm taking over 48.5. And in fact, now if we want an alternate total that offers a little bit more, in terms of an alternate, since I think it'll be high scoring. Full game. With the alternate. Looking for alternate totals, full game. What I want to put it at is if we can go over 50.5, and that lines things up to plus 110. And so, you can go with the over 48.5 and minus 110, and that's your standard. But if you want to make it get a little bit more value, and I'm saying 34-24, I want to push that over 50. So you can get over 50 at plus 105. You add the extra hook at 50.5, you get plus 110. If you want to go a little bit more, if you're going with me, and I say 34-24, which gives us a 58, you could ratchet that up all the way to over 53.5, just to give yourself a little play and get plus 155 odds. And then in terms of the spread, since I've got the card, so it's a 3-point spread at minus 115, 3-point favorites for the 49ers. If we push that to 6.5-point favorites, that they win by a touchdown, which I think the 49ers will. They're going to win by at least a touchdown, plus 150. And that's where you get your value there. And so you take 49ers minus 6.5 on the alternate spread and get plus 150. Now, in terms of player props, this is the interesting one to look at. Looking at the rushing numbers first, 68.5 for Christian McCaffrey. I like the over. Now, granted, McCaffrey has. Now, if we look at his rushing totals this season, he was held to 30 yards last week, but he added 66 receiving yards. His rushing production has been middling. I mean, he only has. So the season opener, he had 69 yards against on 22 carries. Only twice this season has he had over 68 yards. That's it. That's only twice this season. Is this the game that I think it happens? Probably. And so that's not my favorite. If you want to sprinkle just a little on that and take his over 68.5 at minus 115 and then bump it up on the alternate spread, on the alternate rushing yards at 75 plus and get plus 105. Don't do a lot. I don't love that, but I think with the injuries the Cardinals have, I think he's going to have a big game. Um, you know, I love kicking props. And so you can go one of two ways for this. You can go one of two ways for some plus odds. Now, I have the Cardinals scoring 24 points, which means that's only one field goal. If you like Chad Ryland, so this is a good value play. This is a value play. Even though I don't predict 2 or more field goals, I think this is still a good bet, and you can get Chad Ryland over 1.5 field goals at plus 105. Or if you like my score, like that's to 24 points, and think that they can score 3 touchdowns, you can get even better odds. Over 2.5 made extra points at plus 150. I think those are fantastic. Honestly, I think they are fantastic odds to go either way on those. Now, receiving props, receptions made. Okay. Trey McBride, 7.5 receptions. Now, Trey McBride, I think he had, you can count on him to have at least 5 because he's had all of that for, it seems like, forever. But he's coming off a big game against Seattle. He is. And let me pull up Trey McBride's stuff. But with no Michael, with no Warren Harrison, with no Zay Jones, like who are they going to throw to? And so give me over 7.5 receptions for McBride at minus 115. His yardage total is 77.5. Give me 100 plus on McBride for plus 180. I like George Kittle over 49.5 yards. Michael Wilson's is only set at 43.5 yards, but I don't know. I don't know if I like that one. It's really, that one's rough. I don't like it. I don't like that one. Bam Knight, you can get him at over 2.5 receptions at plus 130. I like that one. I'm surprised there is not more. There aren't more receiving props for some of the Cardinals players like Elijah Higgins. And no, they've got Greg Dortch over 2.5 receptions, but it's only minus one. It's only minus 175 odds. So don't go with that unless you think he's only going to have 2 catches. I think he's going to have more than that. But if you think 2 catches is his max, you can get under 2.5 for plus 130. But I think Jacoby's going to try and spread the ball around a little bit, but they won't have big numbers. But Bam Knight, I like over 2.5 catches at plus 130. Michael Wilson, over 3.5 is minus 185. I don't like that. I don't like that. But give me Christian McCaffrey over 5.5 receptions at minus 110. Those are really basic odds. And then let's look at the passing. Let's look at the passing props. Over 1.5 touchdown passes for Jacoby Brissett is minus 110. So it's nothing fancy there. I think Jacoby throws a pick. So plus 110 for over half an interception for Jacoby Brissett. And if we go pass attempts, they're both are set at 33.5. I think the Cardinals are going to have to throw the ball a lot. That said, it's not great odds at minus 135 if you want to parlay that with something else. I do like this one, over 22.5 completions for Jacoby Brissett for even money plus 100. I like it. I do. I like that one. And in terms of touchdown scorers, I mean, Christian McCaffrey's a lock at minus 285. That's awful. But give me value in this one. Give me Ricky Pearsall for plus 200. And give me You can, like, if you think Jacoby Brissett if they're going to get not going to do that. Like, he had the rushing touchdown last time. But give me Elijah Higgins at plus 575. Elijah Higgins at plus 575 because McBride's at minus 115. So that's not a great. That's not a great. That's no great odds for touchdown scores. And so what I've got the Cardinals losing 34-24. So take the 49ers to win, to cover, for the over to cash. And then I've given you a number of prop bets that you might like. And with that, we'll wrap up this edition of the Rise Up Receiver podcast, the best of Cardinals talk of the web. We'll be back next week as we get ready for their game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll see who we can get for that. Seth and I will be back early and late in the week. And with that, I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening as always. We'll be back again soon.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, See Red, and of course, Rise Up, See Red.